Namaste. Welcome to the fifth edition of the Global Festival of Oneness, celebrating the life and works of Adi Shankara and organized by the Indica Center for Moksha Studies. My name is Anuradha and I'm the host for this session. Let us start with a prayer. Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Let us continue with the weekend session on Bhagavadpada Vaibhavam, Life and Legacy of Adi Shankaracharya by Vidwan Manikandan Iyer. Before we get on to the talk, I'd like to introduce the speaker for those of you who joined the first time. Vidwan Manikanta Iyer, a financial crime specialist by profession and a Sanatani by practice, has had the rare fortune of studying Shastras from a tender age. He continues to study Vyakarana from Vidwan Sri Tilak Rao, and he has traditionally started his Vedanta study under Guru Brahmashri Sridhara Sharma. He has also had the rare fortune of studying Vedanta from senior Vidwans such as Mahamahopadhyay Shastra Ratnakar Vidwan Sri Mulaivasil Krishnamurti Shastri and Brahmashri Sridhara Sharma. He has learnt Tarka Shastra from Vidwan Sri Naveen Hola of Sringeri. He recently started a YouTube channel titled Bhakti Priya, where he upholds discourses on Sanatana. Welcome, Vidwanji.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Asha Surashi Bhavadangavalli Bhasai Vadasi Kritadugdha Sindhum Mandasmitairnindita Sharadendum Vande Ravindasana Sundaritvam Vartaramasadhyayameva Nitya Saraswati Swartha Samanvitasid Nirasta Dustarka Kalanka Panka Namamitam Shankaramarchitangrim Sadatmadhyana-niratam vishayebhyah paranmukham Naumi shastreshu nishnatam Chandrasekhara-bharatim Srimad-Shankara-deshikendra-kalite dharma-vyavastha-bhage Punye pitha-chadushtaye timahitam Shri-sharada-pithikam Arudhasya samasta-shastra-nitaye panditya-sima-jushaha Vidyatirtha Jagadguru Mama Guru Sri Padukame Gatihi Kumbhavam Samupeyushi Bhagavati Kim Bharati Rajate Kim Vasadhana Samhratan Bhritavapur Jnanam Samindhe Param Ityullikhya Savismayam Kritadhiyo Dhayantiyam Bharati Tirthasya Jagadguru Kushalada Sri Padukame Gatihi Kumbharati Samudbhutan Shashimaulit Prapujakan Sri Shankara Swaruparya Naumi Shastra Visharadan Sarvashruti Shirodbhuta Samudbhasita Murtaye Vedantambuja Suryaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Kimapi Satata Bodham Kevalananda Rupam Nirupamam Ativelam Nityayuktam Niriham Niravadi Gaganabham Nishkalam Nirvikalpam Hridi Kalayati Vidwan Brahma Purnam Samadho, says Viveka Chudamani. Bhagavadpada, an indefinable, uninterrupted awareness, which is the undercurrent of all of us, which is the nature of dual bliss. It is not comparable with anything that we know of. It is ever free. It is that own self. It is untouched by your desires. It is untouched by your actions. It is free from all the time and space, all the limitations. It is objectless. It is thoughtlessness. It is pure awareness. And that pure Brahman, the Atma Tattvam, is experienced by the sage, the jivanmukta purushas in their heart as their own existence. Last session, we saw that Bhagavadpada had already completed writing the Bhashyas, and from Kedar, they walk towards Gomukh, Gangotri, and now come back to Uttarakashi today, that we know of, where Bhagirathi turns northwards. And here, Acharya, Bhagavadpadacharya was most of the time in that absolute consciousness, in that samadhi state. Chitsukacharya and Padmapadacharya were taking care of his bodily needs from time to time. Yet no one wanted to disturb Bhagavadpadacharya from that absolute state of samadhi, the nirvikalpa samadhi. Acharya was 16 years old now, and Padmapadacharya and Chitsukacharya, both of them, who knew that Acharya's age given by the Lord was coming to an end, were also worried to a certain extent. And one day, during such long tenures of samadhi, one day, Bhagavadpadacharya slowly came out of that nirvikalpa samadhi long before sunrise. He completed his anusthana, and just while he was entering back to that cave, Padmapadacharya and Chitsukacharya saw a very old-aged man, aesthetic, who came in search of Bhagavadpadacharya. Though he was very old, the attraction, the tejas, the kanti, the silence, the aura around that aesthetic was very palpable for both Padmapadacharya and Chitsukacharya. And after formal inquiries by Bhagavadpadacharya, they started discussing about the life in the interior parts of Himalayas. And at dusk, Acharya and the Brahmana aesthetic who had come in search of Bhagavadpadacharya started conversing related to Shastric topics. Gradually, the topics changed from the life in Himalayas and moved towards the Shastric topics. They spoke about Gita, they spoke about Upanishads, they spoke about the Panchagni Vidya. All those things were discussed. And the conversation came inside a proper fold where they started discussing about Brahmasutra Bhashya and its meaning, the inner meaning and the purport of the Brahmasutra Bhashya. By that time, Bhagavadpadacharya's Bhashya and his Medha Vilasa had spread across India. So there were many people who were coming, but this aesthetic was very different from the others who came in search of Bhagavadpadacharya. Others, most of them, came in search of Bhagavadpadacharya for either clarifying their doubts or for arguing and establishing their Siddhanta. But this was a very formal discussion. Bhagavadpadacharya felt a very presence of a guru, a very exalted guru in that Brahmana's presence. And in the Brahma Sutra, the first sutra in the first pada of the third chapter, first pada and first sutra, which is Tadantara Pratipattau Ramhati Samparishwaktaha Prashna Nirupanabhyam, is that sutra. And Bhagavadpada explained the sutra, all the intricacies of Brahma Sutra, how it should be understood. All those things were discussed in detail. And Bhagavadpada and the Brahmana now slowly shifted the topic to Upanishads. He spoke, he asked a very beautiful question to Bhagavadpadacharya. He asked, some say that the jiva continues to exist even after the death. Some say the jiva does not exist after the death of the body. This comes in Kathopanishad, where Nachiketa asks Yama. He says, Asti tyeke nayam asti iti chaike. And the questions flow. And Bhagavadpadacharya gives a very beautiful reply. He says, Yatha karma yatha shrutam. The jiva carries all its karma vasanas and enters other wombs. Shruti states, Shruti doctrine is that unless one realizes itself, the rebirth will continue. And Shruti also wants that one who sees multiplicity goes from death to death. Mrityo samrityumapnoti ya iha naneva pashyati. Even Taittiriya says, Yatu antaram kurute, ut antaram kurute tasya bhayam bhavati. And Shruti's declaration is that there is neither rebirth nor death. And this will become a contradiction which says, Na jayate mriyate va kadachit in Gita. So the Brahman asks this, will it not contradict to the Gita Vakya which says, Na jayate mriyate va kadachit? So Bhagavadpada says that the self has neither birth nor the death, and is the conclusive statement of the Shruti. Birth, deaths are only relative and is the result of ignorance and are all bodily actions. But there is that existence which is shining, which is untouched by all these actions. And Bhagavadpada explains all the important details here. And after Dirgha Vichara, which happened around for 3 days, Padmapadacharya and Chitsukacharya, who were witness to this, who were listening to this highly invigorating dialogues between Bhagavadpadacharya and that Brahmana. After the dialogues, the Brahmana is now ready to leave. He blesses Bhagavadpadacharya with all joy. His heart is so full, he blesses Bhagavadpadacharya. So Padmapadacharya and Chitsukacharya, who were standing at a distance, prostrated from there itself. And Acharya Bhagavadpadacharya asks Padmapadacharya, kindly do the Nirupanam for this dialogue. Padmapadacharya, with all humility, he says, what can I say between two divine beings who are conversing? I am no one even to stand in front of you. He gives that famous shloka that we all know of. Shankaram Shankaracharyam. Shankaraha Shankaras Sakshad. Vyaso Narayana Swayam. Tayor Vivade Samprapte. Kinkaraha Kinkaromyaham. Shankara, who is the Shankara Bhagavadpadacharya, he says Shankaraha Shankaras Sakshad. He is that Shiva himself. Vyasaha, Padmapadacharya realizes this Brahmana, who that Brahmana is. He is that Sakshat Vyasacharya who divided the Vedas into 4 parts, wrote the 18 Puranas and other Puranas like Bhagavata Purana. And he says Vyasaha Narayana Swayam. That Vyasa is Narayana himself. Tayor Vivade Samprapte. The dialogue between those two. Kinkaraha Kimkaromyaham. A servant, Kinkaraha, what should I do? What can I even do to that? And Bhagavadpadacharya is said to have blessed by that Brahmana And Shankara Digvijaya say that it is Vyasacharya who came and was very happy to know that someone has written a proper detailed commentary without any purvagraha, and blesses him 16 more years is what we know of from the Shankara Digvijaya. And now Bhagavadpadacharya slowly comes down from Uttarakhand. The ascetics group gradually proceed down the hill, move towards Prayag to meet Kumarila Bhatta. In the starting, the first session, we had told that Parameshwara himself had sent Kumarila Bhatta as Shanmukha Swarupa to do the Uddhara of the Karma Kanda Marga. Now, the Karma Kandins were so powerful that they started rejecting that there is someone who is God, and the moksha is to be attained only through the karma. We do the karma, we obtain phala for that karma, and there are no other things, is what was their Siddhanta. Kumarila Bhatta, like I said, due to the extra hindrance of Buddhism, he for a short brief period of time converted to Buddhism and learned their Siddhanta, came out of that Buddhism back to his original avatara, which he was in disguise in Buddhism, and wrote a detailed khandana for Buddhism, which do not do the angikara, which do not do the proper reverence of the Shruti. And Kumarila Bhatta was now to be addressed, and Kumarila Bhatta was in deep pang, kheda, that he had learnt from a teacher disguising his identity. And so Kumarila Bhatta decided to burn himself slowly through the husks. They sit in the middle and put the husk around their body and slowly burn the husk. And you know the husk, how tushagni they call it in Sanskrita. You know how slowly it burns. And he realized that he had done a mistake, and for that he wanted to do this. And while Bhagavadpadacharya was, after Vrindavan, Bhagavadpadacharya was entering Prayag, he saw that Vedic Brahmins were fleeing the place because Bhattapada, Kumarila Bhattapada, in Shastra they do not address Kumarila Bhatta as Kumarila Bhatta. Due to utmost reverence, they address him as Bhattapada. Bhattapada was burning himself to slow death. And so Bhagavadpada hears this, and they quickly run towards the place where Bhattapada was burning himself in the Tushagni. And by the time Bhagavadpadacharya had reached Kumarila Bhatta's place, most large part of his body was already burnt in that heat. Bhattapada was sitting like a true yogi in trance. And Bhattapada, on seeing Bhagavadpadacharya, was elated. And he says that Shrutis say that one who performs Agni Karya or who does the Agni Upasana very reverentially, the Agni in itself will give him that moksha. Bhattapada tells this to Bhagavadpada, and that Shruti Vakya is very true, because I see you who is burning like molten gold. Please give me Atmopadesha, says Bhattapadacharya. Acharya is very pleased, is also feeling very bad that Bhattapada is in that state. And Bhagavadpadacharya, who is pleased now, he says that Bhattapadacharya, you are not that body. You are that own self. The purpose of the karma kanda is to purify the self and help you develop to do the Vedanta Shravana. The self is the indication of that pure mind. The self is apart from that body and is perceived at all times to be I. The karma kanda accepts the jivatma and it has connection with the other worlds. But the self is eternal. You are that truth even now. Realize that. Bhattapada hears this. Since he had performed extensive karma kanda, his chitta was already shuddha. And when Bhagavadpadacharya, who is the Sakshat Shiva, gave this Upadesha, he was able to abide by that self. And Bhattapada, before leaving his body, he says, my Shishya, Mandana Mishra, who is the next greatest authority on this karma kanda, will do the debate against you since I am in this state. Kindly go and meet Bhattapadacharya. And so Bhattapada leaves his body in that Tushagni and Bhagavadpadacharya moves towards the Gauda lands in the north of India. There are the Saraswata, Kanakubja, Gauda, Utkala, Mithila, and are the 5 Gauda provinces there. Mandana Mishra was also known as Vishwarupa. He belonged to that Gauda land of Kanakubja. His father was Himamitra. It is said that he was also the Guru of Kashmir. And Mandana Mishra was married to a pious lady who was exalted in Shastras, who knew the purpose of the Shastric studies, who was a divine incarnation called Bharati. She was the daughter of Vishnumitra. And Vishwarupa, who is Mandana Mishra, and Bharati led a highly ascetic life, Grihastha Dharma, as it is ordained in that Vedas. And there was this problem with the Karmakandins that the sannyasins were lazy people who feared Grihastha Dharma and left everything cowardly and ran away. And Bhagavadpadacharya walked for a month from Bhattapada's place and reached Mandana Mishra's place on the northern banks of river Narmada. And the village is called Padmavanam. And there when he enters the Agrahara, it was so dark, so dusk, that the Agnihotra Dhupa, the Agnihotra smoke had engulfed the entire sky. And children were playing in that streets. Many Brahmin houses, Agnihotra's houses there. And Bhagavadpadacharya goes looking for Vishwarupa's house. And he sees a small boy who's playing the top. He's spinning the top and playing the top. And Bhagavadpadacharya asks that boy, my boy, where is Mandana Mishra place, Vishwarupa's house? The boy's eyes fell on Bhagavadpadacharya, who was radiating like sun. It is the boy who's seeing a sannyasi like this for the first time. And he says, the house where the parrots also do the samagana mellifluously, it is that house of Vishwarupa or Mandana Mishra. And he says, and he immediately asks Bhagavadpadacharya, what Vesha is this? Where is your Yajnopavita? Where is your Shikha? What is this danda that you are holding? Bhagavadpadacharya says, the Yajnopavita and the Shikha have been consumed by that self, and they walk. And they enter Kumarila Bhatta's, Mandana Mishra's house, Acharya felt very happy seeing the exceptional nishtha through which Mandana Mishra and Ubhaya Bharati were performing. So, Bhagavadpadacharya, after initial conversations, Acharya asks, Mandana Mishra asks the reason for Acharya's visit. Acharya then says that he had come to argue and establish the Vedanta Siddhanta. Mandana Mishra says that kindly accept the bhiksha first, then we shall think of the discussion later. But Bhagavadpadacharya says, no, I want the Vada bhiksha first. And Acharya noticed that great yogini Bharati, who was living as an ordinary householder, praising that Sharda herself. He composes a shloka, Bhikshandehi Vidhindra Divya Mahile Vedanta Vidyamayi Jnanam Yoga Samadhi Siddha Sulabham Chinmatra Nishtham Param Yogagnirapi Durlabhe Shrutinute Shri Shadibih Pujite Sadyo Mukti Vidhayinim Vijayatam Shri Sharada Jnanada. This is not in the Madhaviya Shankara Digvijaya or any Shankara Digvijaya. It is composed reverentially by a great jivanmukta Purusha. And next day arrangements were made for Bhagavadpadacharya and Mandana Mishra's debate. Initially, for a judge, Ubhaya Bharati was made to sit as a judge. Initially, the debate started with each other establishing their Siddhanta. Vedas are compromised in Sannyasa Ashrama was the feeling of Mandana Mishra. So the debate statement started that Vedas comprised of Vidhi, Mantra, Namadheya, Nishedha and Arthavada, and Mandana Mishra presented the Shastra with great depth. And Bhagavadpadacharya also spoke about the Vedanta Siddhanta. And Mandana Mishra and Ubhaya Bharati showed great reverence to Bhagavadpadacharya. And Bhagavadpadacharya now establishes his Siddhanta. He says, na karmana na prajaya dhanena tyage naike amritatvamanshuhu. For what Mandana Mishra said, that yavat jivam agnihotram juhuyat. And he says, amnayasya kriyarthatvat anarthakyam athadarthanam. He says that Vedas, most portions of the Vedas are karmakandas, action oriented. And there is no meaning for the statements that do not relate to karma. All these are arthavada. And so Acharya established the non-dual self. He says, plavahyete adhrida yajnarupa. And he says, pariksha lokan karmachitan brahmano nirvedamayat nastyakrita kritena tad vijnanartham sagurumeva bhigachet shrotriyam brahmanishtam. Then he quotes Gita where he says, Jnanagnihi sarvakarmani bhasmasat kurute Arjuna. And he says that the main purpose of the karmas is to give chitta shuddhi. And Bhagavadpada, he says, Ekameva dvitiyam neha nanasti kinchana. Dvitiyad Vaibhavam bhayam bhavati, and so on. All the Vedantic dindima was done by Bhagavadpadacharya, that the jnana is the only way for liberation. And now Mandana Mishra asks, How will the varnashrama dharma carry on if everyone is taking sannyasa? Sarvam cha karma varnashrama vihitam anishtameva vivekinaha dehagrahana hetutvat tat kshayakaranam cha atmajnanam pravritti dosha hetu nivartakatvat. Bhagavadpadacharya quotes this from the Apastamba Dharma Sutra. And he says that the actions are accordance with the classes and the stages becomes the cause for endless birth and death. Therefore, they are not of interest to a man of discrimination. Self-knowledge is the best because they destroy ignorance and the root cause of action. And so, after a long debate, Mandana Mishra surrenders. He understands the reason of the human birth and the exalted position of the sannyasa dharma. And he prays Bhagavadpadacharya to give him sannyasa. And he is called as Sureshwaracharya. And now Mandana Mishra is Sureshwaracharya. And Ubhaya Bharati, Bhagavadpadacharya requests her, a motherly figure, to join them, to help them in their Vijaya Yatra. And slowly, Sureshwaracharya realizes Bhagavadpadacharya's greatness. And he writes the very famous shloka. He says, Ashailad udaya tatastha giritaha bhaswad yasho rashmivihi vyaptam vishwam anandhakaram abhavati yasyasma shishyayiridam arajnana gabisthibih pratihatas chandrayate bhaskaraha tasmai shankara bhanave tanumano vagbhir namasyat sada. And he is very, now Bhagavadpadacharya moves towards south. And near Mallikarjuna Kshetra, which is the Sri Shaila, there is a huge, a very important incident that happens for Bhagavadpadacharya, called as the Krakacha Bhairava, who was the leader of Kapalikas. Their Siddhanta was that to give a person's head and blood baths to their deity, so that their deity is fulfilled, and this Krakacha Bhairava attains liberation. That Krakacha Bhairava comes and asks Bhagavadpadacharya if he can give his body. Bhagavadpadacharya, who is in that state without any connection, attachment to that body, he says, I can very happily give this to you. And that is Bhagavadpadacharya. You can see Bhagavadpadacharya here. That great compassion. And Bhagavadpada, on a set date, Bhagavadpadacharya asks him to come to a point where he can take them. And Bhagavadpada, the Krakacha Bhairava, on that set day, comes and takes Bhagavadpadacharya to that shala where they have erected to do this bali of Bhagavadpadacharya. It was around midnight. And Bhagavadpadacharya slowly walks without informing any other Shishyas, Padmapada or Chitsukha, or even Sureshwaracharya. But Padmapadacharya, who knew the heart of Bhagavadpadacharya, he gets an intuition that something is very wrong. He comes out of his kutira and sees that Bhagavadpadacharya is not there. On the other hand, Bhagavadpadacharya is walking to that Bhairavasthana. This side, Padmapadacharya automatically starts reciting the Nrisimha mantra. He knows that something is wrong. He gets that Nrisimha Avesha. That side, Bhagavadpadacharya is made to sit on that pita in the Bhairavasthana. Bhagavadpadacharya is in that Nischala Tattva. No movement, no any facial expression of either fear or asuya. And Acharya remained still. And Padmapadacharya gets that Nrisimha Avesha, walks fiercely towards that Bhairavasthana. He sees Padmapadacharya sees Bhagavadpadacharya in this state. And he gets that Nrisimha Avesha. He pounces on that Krakacha Bhairava and he puts that Bhairava to rest. Acharya Bhagavadpadacharya slowly opens his eyes from that Samadhi, Yoga Samadhi. And he sees that Ugra Bhairava, Krakacha Bhairava's body put to rest by Padmapadacharya, and Padmapadacharya's fiercely standing there in that Nrisimha Avesha. And Padmapadacharya is calmed down. Bhagavadpadacharya writes that Nrisimha Karuna Stotram. Lakshmi Nrisimha Mamadehi Karavalambam. Samsara Bhikara Karindra Karabhigata Nishpidyamana Vapushas Sakalartinasha Prana Prayana Bhavabhiti Samakulasya Lakshmi Nrisimha Mamadehi Padavalambam. And Padmapadacharya is also calmed down now. And now they slowly move towards the Mukambika Kshetra through Gokarna, and they slowly move towards Mukambika. And Bhagavadpadacharya enters a village called as Sri Bali. It is a huge agrahara. Like in case of Mandana Mishra, it was the same scenario here. There were so many Agnihotra Brahmanas, such that the Agnihotra smoke had engulfed the entire sky, and the sun's rays could not enter the earth. It was that thick. And there was a pious couple called Prabhakara, and he had a son who appeared to be very dumb. And Padmapadacharya, Bhagavadpadacharya, Sureshwaracharya, Chitsukacharya are all sitting under a banyan tree in the outskirts of Sri Bali Grama. And Acharya's eyes is expecting something, or is expecting someone to come. Padmapadacharya closely observes this, but does not ask anything. Due to Bhagavadpadacharya's fame, the entire Sri Bali Grama come and prostrate to Bhagavadpadacharya. And this Prabhakara couple also come taking their child. Bhagavadpadacharya's eyes fall on that kid. Prabhakara explains the vrittanta of that kid. He says that I have consulted several physicians. This child appears to be dumb. He's not doing the Veda mantras. He's not reciting. He's not learning. He appears to be still. If he is asked to stand, he will stand. If he is asked to sit, he will sit. It is just like that Jada Bharata that we know of in Bhagavata. Bhagavadpadacharya's eyes fall on him. Bhagavadpadacharya realizes what a great yogi that child was. His eyes was such that there were no objects falling on that eyes. Tad Vishno paramam padam sada pashyanti surayaha divi vachakshura tatam, says the Vedas. That he was that demonstration of this Veda mantra, Yo Akshini Purushaha. And Bhagavadpadacharya with all love takes that kid from his hand, takes him near through his shoulders, asks that kid, Kastvam shishokasya kutosi ganta kim namate tvam kuta gatosi etanmayoktam vadachar bhakatvam matpritaye priti vivardhanosi. My dear child, who are you? To whom do you belong? From where are you coming? Where do you intend to go? My dear boy, respond to my questions and make me feel happy. Matpritaye priti vivardhanosi. I feel a boundless joy seeing you. And for the first time, that kid, this Shabda of Bhagavadpadacharya falls on that kid's ear. It will enter through that mind. And his eyes slowly see Bhagavadpadacharya's figure. What a great punya that child must have done, that for the first time he is seeing that figure, holy figure of Bhagavadpadacharya, holy Murti, Divya Murti of Bhagavadpadacharya. And that child writes a 14 shlokas, which are in itself the entire essence of the Vedanta. Says, Naham Manushyo, Nacha Deva Yakshau, Na Brahmana Kshatriya Vaishya Shudraha, Na Brahmachari, Na Grihi Vanasto, Bhikshur Nachaham, Nijabodha Rupaha, Nimittam Manaschakshur Adi Pravrittau, Nirastha Khilopadi Rakasha Kalpaha, Rabir Lokacheshta, Nimittam Yatayaha, Sanityopalabdhis Swarupoham Atma, Yamagnushvanan Nitya Bodhaswarupam, Manaschakshuradinya Bodhatmakani, Pravartanta Ashritya Nishkampamekam Sanityopalabdhis Swarupoham Atma. It goes on. Every line, every paragraph ends with Sanityopalabdhis Swarupoham Atma. Says Naham Manushyaha, Nacha Deva Yakshaha, Na Brahmana Kshatriya Vaishya Shudraha, Na Brahmachari, Na Grihi Vanastaha. I am not this body, I am not the attributes of this body, I am not the Varnashrama dharmas that have been superimposed on this body. I am that consciousness which is witness to all these adhyasa. When all the adhyasas are removed, that which shines forth as I, the Supreme Chaitanya, I am that. Sanitya upalabdhihi swarupoham atma. It is as my own self. It is not somewhere. It is as my own self. Sanityopalabdhi swarupoham atma. And Prabhakara and his wife are so elated seeing their child talk for the first time. Bhagavadpadacharya now Prabhakara prostrates to Bhagavadpadacharya, thanks him for making their child talk and decides to take him back. But Bhagavadpadacharya explains the state in which that child was. And since they were also matured enough, Prabhakara and his wife decide to give that child to Bhagavadpadacharya. And Bhagavadpadacharya gives him the sannyas ashrama. And since he had understood the entire essence of Vedanta as if it is so near and so close to him like a gooseberry on his hand, he gives him the name as Hastamalakacharya. Hasta is hand, Amalaka is that gooseberry, Hastamalakacharya. And after that, they move and they enter Sringeri. And that beautiful atmosphere, Antariksha of Sringeri, the peacefully flowing Tungabhadra, and Bhagavadpadacharya desires to establish a mutt there. And he informs Padmapadacharya that this place is so suitable for aesthetics, aesthetically so nice that ascetics can stay here, do the vichara of the Vedanta vichara. So many Brahmanishtas can come there. And the mother goddess Brahmavidya Swarupini will stay here and guide all the seekers who come here. And Padmapadacharya is given that duty. And Bhagavadpadacharya stays for a very, very, very long time in Sringeri doing the Bhashya Pata to everybody. Other than the 4 Shishyas who come now, who Padmapadacharya, one more Shishya who is ready to come, Giri, Hastamalakacharya and Sureshwaracharya. And once what happens, Padmapadacharya and all others are sitting. Giri is on the other end of Tunga. He is washing the Kashaya of Bhagavadpadacharya. And after the Shanti mantras also, Bhagavadpadacharya is still without starting the Bhashya Pata. And so someone asks, why has Bhagavadpadacharya started the Bhashya Pata yet? So Bhagavadpadacharya replies that the Giri hasn't returned. And as if it was funny, they belittle Giri and say, what is the use if Giri comes or not? He anyway does not understand anything that has been taught. He is just sitting with us. And Bhagavadpadacharya listens this. He feels deeply pained by hearing this. And he asks, oh, that means you are understanding everything that has been taught. His eyes is filled with tears due to that pain. That is Bhagavadpadacharya, we should all know. And Bhagavadpadacharya does the smarana of Giri, who's on the other side of Tungabhadra. The Shaktipata happens. The Guru, just by smarana, is giving that Diksha to him. And Giri walks from there to Bhagavadpadacharya's Sannidhi. He's complete within, and he sings that the famous shloka that we all know of is the Totakashtaka. He says, Vidhita kila shastra sudha jalade mahitopanishad katitarthanide hridaye kalaye vimalam charanam bhava shankara deshika me sharanam. And he says this. And while Bhagavadpadacharya, all these incidents were happening, the Sharada's temple complex is also ready. Bhagavadpadacharya does the Prathishta of Sharada Mata. He writes the famous Sharada Bhujanga Prayatashtaka. Suvakshoja kumbam sudha purna kumbam prasada valambam prapunya valambam sadasyendu bimbam sada noshta bimbam bhaje sharadambam ajasram madambam Katakshe dayardram kare jnana mudram kalabhir vinidram kalapai subhadram Purastrim vinidram purastunga bhadram bhaje sharadambam ajasram madambam. He sings 8 shlokas in praise of Bhagavadpadacharya. And now, one day when he was in Sringeri, Bhagavadpadacharya suddenly gets that smarana of his mother Aryamba. On the other hand, what happens in Kaladi? Aryamba is bedridden. She is awaiting Bhagavadpadacharya. She is constantly calling Shankara, Shankara. And all her relatives, just like other relatives, are telling her that Mata nasti, Pita nasti for a sannyasi. And your Shankara is now a Jagadacharya. Will he come? Will he remember his Purvashrama mother? But Aryamba, with all grit, she says, yes, my child will come. And on the other hand, here in Sringeri, the moment he gets smarana, he asks Sureshwaracharya to take care of all the Shishyas and all the proceedings in Sringeri. And they quickly start walking along with Bhagavadpadacharya and Chitsukacharya, who was his childhood friend Vishnu. They start walking. Bhagavadpadacharya starts talking about the Yoga Siddhi. And even before they realize, from Sringeri, they reached Kaladi. And there is hue around Kaladi where everyone is shouting that 2 aesthetics have come, 2 ascetics have come there. And this news falls inside the ear of Aryamba. her heart leaped with joy. And Aryamba is thrilled to see Bhagavadpadacharya. She calls him Shankara. I am so happy. Can I call you Shankara? You are the Jagadacharya now. So Bhagavadpadacharya consoles her and asks what she wants. And she, who was a very devoted Shiva Bhakta, wants to have the darshan of Shiva in Saguna Rupa. And Bhagavadpadacharya composes that Shiva Bhujanga. And now, after the Shiva Darshana, Aryamba is wanting to have the Krishna Darshana. She asks Bhagavadpadacharya, and Bhagavadpadacharya writes the famous Krishnashtaka. Shri Ashlishto Vishnuhu Sthirachara Gurur Veda Vishayo Dhiyam Sakshi Shuddho Harirasurahantab Janayanaha Gadhishanki Chakri Vimalavanamali Sthira Ruchihi Sharanyo Lokesho Mama Bhavatu Krishno Akshi Vishayaha Sharanyaha Lokeshaha Mama Bhavatu Krishnaha Akshi Vishayaha. Bhagavadpadacharya prays Sharanyaha Lokeshaha Mama Bhavatu Krishnaha Akshi Vishayaha. Oh Krishna, be an object to my eyes, which means please grant me your darshan. And Aryamba has that Krishna darshan, and Bhagavadpadacharya slowly makes her abide by that self. Aryamba slips into deep meditation, and there is Aryamba's mukti. And after that, Bhagavadpadacharya and others start moving around. Bhagavadpadacharya does that Digvijaya once more. He establishes he does the pratishtha of so many temples, starting from the south, Kanchipuram, where he does the Sri Chakra Yantra Pratisthapana in front of the goddess Kamakshi. Then in the Tiruvanaikaval, Jambukeshwara Sannidhi, he does the Tatanka Pratishtha of Akhilandeshwari. One more Vaishishtya is that she was very Ugra. So he places Ganapati in front of Akhilandeshwari. Any mother who sees her child will not be angry anymore. And then does that Tatanka Pratishtha to Akhilandeshwari. Then he moves. In Sri Shailam, he composes that magnum opus of Shivananda Lahari. He moves. Then he does the Pratishtha of Jagannatha, where he writes the Jagannatha Ashtaka. Jagannatha Swami Nayana Pathagami Bhavatu Me. Bhagavadpada, then he moves, he tours the entire length and breadth. And it is said that Bhagavadpadacharya wrote that magnum opus, the entire Vedantic treatise of Dakshinamurti Ashtaka in the holy land of Arunachala. Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam Nijantargatam Pashyan Atmani Mayaya Bahirivod Bhutam Yata Nidraya. And after that, he writes so many stotras for us. Anyone who wants each Sanatani will know this shloka of Mda Karatta Modakam Angam Hare Fulaka Bhushanam Ashayanti. And such was Bhagavadpadacharya's stature. And after that, Bhagavadpadacharya, Bhagavadpadacharya's literature can be broadly divided into three. We saw the shlokas. We know the Prasthana-traya that we dealt with. There is one more section called as Prakarana Grantha, where he condenses the entire essence of Vedanta into small texts. For example, I will just illustrate one and move forward. There is something called as Eka Shloki. Kim Jyotis Tava Bhanuman Ahanime Ratrau Pradipadikam Syadevam Ravideepa Darshana Vidau. That shloka is just one shloka. But that shloka is a condensed form, hugely portion of Brihadaranyaka where it is called as the Swayam Jyoti Brahmana, the very big chapter which runs around 300 to 400 pages. Bhagavadpadacharya condensed that, which is a conversation between Yajnavalkya and Janaka. He condensed that and made it into one shloka. That is Bhagavadpadacharya's Vaishishtya. He can tell the Vedanta Tattva in just one shloka, in 10 shlokas, which is Dasha Shloki. Upadesha Sahasri, where he talks about the same Tattva in 1000 shlokas. And after that, Bhagavadpadacharya slowly moves towards Kedara. He gives this Tattva, he gives this knowledge to everybody. And he slowly starts walking towards Kedar. And it is said that Padmapadacharya asks, they all realize that the time of Bhagavadpadacharya, who is 32 years old now, is going to come to an end. And Padmapadacharya asks Bhagavadpadacharya to suggest one book that encompasses the entire Vedanta Siddhanta. Bhagavadpadacharya does not say anything. He says that Dasha Shloki in itself is enough, which means that there is no gradation or maturity in jnana. Once that lamp of self-knowledge is lit, it is lit. So, we all must reverentially, without fail, bow to Bhagavadpadacharya every day, who has given us this self-knowledge which is so close to us. He has made it so easy. If not Bhagavadpadacharya, like I said, we would not be sitting here today. Chandrasekhara Bharati Mahaswami of Sringeri Sharada Peetham beautifully states one shloka which is very close to my heart too. He states, Maste durakshar atitir likhita vidatra jagartu sadhva salahopi namesti tasyaha lumpamite karunaya karunam budhetam Sri Shankaracharya mamadehi kadavalambam. He says, Maste durakshar atitihi likhita vidatra. Brahman has written bad life on my forehead. I am not worried, because I have got Bhagavadpadacharya, who with his unbounded compassion will help me cross the ocean of samsara. Maste durakshar atitir likhita vidatra jagartu sadhva salahopi namesti tasyaha lumpamite karunaya karunam budetam Sri Shankaracharya mamadehi padavalambam. And so it is our utmost duty that we all pray to Bhagavadpadacharya without missing or with him even one day. One day missed without remembering Bhagavadpadacharya is one day wasted in our lives. I thank Advaita Academy reverentially for giving this opportunity for me personally to do Manana of Bhagavadpadacharya over 4 weekends. I offer all the 4 talks the holy feet of Mahasannidhanam and my Guru, and I close this Sadguru Charanarpanamastu.
So much, Manikandan ji, for sharing to us about this Karuna Murti, through whose works we are able to understand ourselves and understand Ishvara. So great! We are benefiting from this. Viewers, we have many such wonderful sessions. Today evening at 7 p.m. India time, we have an interview with Padma Nepali, the writer of the book, the translator of the book, The Vibrant Stillness. So please do join and enjoy the session. Before I leave, I'd like to say the closing prayer. Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you very much and see you in the evening.